Hello everyone, and welcome to my review for Volume 2 of Berserk. Assuming that I haven't gotten very impatient and just posted this the same day, this is probably coming out the day after I uploaded my review for the first volume. So we are really on a roll here. Before I get into this review, I of course have to mention my subscribe goal for 2021, hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of my videos and you're not subscribed, you might as well to help me reach that goal. Same thing goes if you're a new viewer and this is among the first videos of mine that you've watched. The other thing is my Patreon. If you want to help support me and the channel directly or get access to some extra content, you can always become a patron. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with this review. So I blazed through this volume while I was waiting for the last review to export and upload. So I think I'm going to have to pace myself, both in terms of how quickly I'm reading and how quickly I'm uploading. As I mentioned in the last review, I don't like waiting to upload something after I've recorded it, but I think I'm going to have to do that. So what I'm probably going to be doing is in my free time, I will be reading a volume of Berserk, then recording a review, and then doing something else, I guess, and then reading more, and then recording the next review, and if the previous one isn't uploaded yet, I'm just going to have to wait. And depending on how many volumes I read a day, I may get quite the backlog. So it looks like I'm probably going to be doing like a review every day until I review all the volumes. I'm sure you guys aren't going to complain about that. That will just mean I'm basically doubling my workload. Yeah, but, I mean, I'm enjoying Berserk a lot so far, so I'm not really complaining about that too much, and I like doing this stuff. So, really, not an issue. It's kind of a win-win for both of us, I guess. Just means that I have to do a little bit more work when it comes to producing YouTube videos. But anyway, the volume. So, this continues off from where Volume 1 ended with its introduction of the Bayolet in this city where the Count is having quote-unquote heretics executed on a pretty regular basis. Guts meets this very disfigured man named Vargas, who was tortured by the Count, and knows that the dude is not a human being. But through him, we learn more about, what exactly is going on in the city with the Count, and also more about what the deal is with the God Hand. More so, we see silhouettes of the God Hand. We find out that the Bayolet is something that can be used to summon them, and that's why Guts wants the Bayolet, because he wants to get to the God Hand. Based on the information available thus far in the story, it would seem that these are the people who wronged Guts in some way in the past, and that's why he's on his quest for revenge now. Speaking of, revenge is a very big theme in this volume, because Guts is on a quest for revenge, Vargas is on a quest for revenge, and the Count used to be on a quest for revenge. I feel like Vargas and the Count are lessons for Guts, examples, I guess, that kind of show, going on a path towards revenge is not like a great idea. In the case of Vargas, at least in Guts' mind, he was too weak to fulfill his desire for vengeance against the Count for disfiguring him and killing his family. And because of that, because he was striving after something that was far beyond his capabilities, he was an idiot and a failure. And Guts isn't going to fail like him, because Guts is actually strong, and he can get vengeance if he wants to. Alright, sure thing. And in the Count's case, we find out that something fairly similar happened to him as with Vargas, and that 7 years ago, actual heretics, actual pagans, or whatever, had kidnapped his wife and held her hostage. And because the Count could not negotiate with them without permission from the king, he refused their demands, and they sacrificed his wife alive in a ritual. And he seemingly used the Bayolet to become an apostle and pursue revenge against these heretics, which was presumably where all the executions started, but now it's just evolved into murdering, like, everyone. And it seems like he's just more interested in killing people and takes pleasure from it now, and he's been corrupted by his quest for vengeance. It kind of seems like becoming an apostle is almost like a corruptive thing. Like, even if you have the best of intentions, although, like, revenge is not really a pure intention anyway, becoming an apostle is going to corrupt you into a man-eating monster, which is what happens with the Count. So that should be a huge warning for Guts, especially since he has now found the exact same Bayolet and wants to use it to try and get to the God Hand. Quest for revenge? Maybe not a great idea if you like being alive. Like, even Puck says that at one point. It's just like, pursuing revenge is not a fucking good idea. You should be more focused on trying to live in the future than letting the past drag you down, because it won't lead anywhere good. Other than that, thematic stuff, we get some pretty cool action in this volume with Guts fighting one of the Count's knights who was transformed by a demon. Well, D-A-E-mon, spelled like the demons in Warhammer, so I guess daemons? Diamonds? Whatever, he makes him eat a weird, gross slug thing that's an extension of himself, and he turns into, like, a gross flesh monster. It's pretty cool. It's like it turns into, like, a Resident Evil monster, and Guts fights him, and it's pretty good shit. And then the second chapter of this volume is Guts going to the castle and fighting, like, everybody. All the knights in the castle. He's fucking chopping up everybody. It's awesome. It's so fucking cool. And then he starts fighting the Count, who turns into a gigantic slug monster. And that's also really awesome. I recall now, there's a lot of discourse. People talk a lot about the great writing of Berserk, and there is. But it makes it kind of easy to forget sometimes that Berserk is also just really, really fucking badass. And has a lot of really cool shit in it. And you get to see that in spades. Now, something interesting that someone had commented on the last video, it was Zarzu4. As I had mentioned in the last review, a lot of people generally have a problem with the Black Swordsman arc, and that it's not really representative of the series as a whole. But Zarzu4 says that his problem with the Black Swordsman is that basically the first impression we're given of Guts is that he's someone with no redeeming qualities. Like, he's just a complete piece of shit. And I generally agree. Like, he doesn't really show any kind of compassion for other people. He doesn't try to save Vargas, even though he was kind of in the right to, because it was a trap, and he more likely than not would have been killed if he did try to rescue him. But for the most part, Guts is just a huge asshole to everyone. Like, he tells Vargas that he's fucking disgusting, and that he's an idiot and a weakling. Yeah, like, he's not being very considerate of anyone. So, upon a first impression, Guts is just a piece of shit. However, it is very clear that there is still more going on there. There have been moments where there's a bit of a crack in his persona. I would say a big one was from the last volume, where after Guts had to cut the girl in half after she had died and been possessed by a ghost. There almost seemed to be a moment there where he was almost kind of remorseful about having to do it, if I'm remembering that correctly. And there seems to be some hintings of that here as well. We have the return of the fetus monster, which was apparently not just the incubus, which I had kind of figured. This fetus creature does seem to be haunting him, and after Vargas is executed, his face is haunting him as well. So there is very clearly some ghosts from the past haunting Guts, and we will have to see how those are going to affect him in the future, and what exactly the source of these ghosts are. I know about a few of them. But yeah, so I'm quite interested in seeing that. Also, I don't know if it's just these quote-unquote prologue chapters, but these are really long. Like, the 2 chapters in Volume 2 are like 100 pages. They feel like the length of an anime episode. It's like 3 chapters worth of stuff. And not like a weekly Shonen Jump chapter's worth of stuff, like more. Well, in terms of page quality, or quantity, more. But in terms of all of the story stuff going on there, it feels like the length of an entire anime episode. So I'm assuming that after the Black Swordsman arc, you're going to have more like 10 chapters per volume stuff, because I think I've seen the chapter count for some of the future volumes, and they're much more of like a normal length for a volume. But yeah, so with that, that's all I have to say for my review for Volume 2. Very much looking forward to reading Volume 3. I'm going to start doing that right after I'm done recording this. So yeah, with that, that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I'm going to be, pumping these Berserk reviews out as fast as I can read it, pretty much. Actually, a little slower, but you know what I mean. We're going to be getting a lot of these, so if you're looking forward to them, you should subscribe so you don't miss any of them. If you're interested in some other series, I cover quite a few on my channel. You can always check out my playlists to see what those are. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons, and the recipients of the shout out today are K-God, Angel Does It, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, and Moonshadow935. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos, or you want to get access to some extra content, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.